Hey guys, here we are with round two. If you haven't seen round one, go check it out. Maybe I'll make like a playlist or whatever, so you guys can just watch the shit all at once, whatever. Um, I'd like to give credit to HBO for the film. The use of this film is protected by the Fair Use Act for commentary, discussion, and criticism, and all that other good stuff. But for the people that are new to the channel, I like to go over the new fights, the upcoming fights that are coming up, and break down the fighters, past fights, and then kind of figure out a way that those two fighters are going to come together. What is the art going to look like that they produce? When you do that by figuring out how each fighter sets up his punches, if they set their punches up, how well each fighter's defense works against these kind of styles. And you do want to look at like fighters that are similar. We don't exactly have anybody like that's going to fit Canelo to a T, but I think Kell Brook is a good example of that, of Kell Brook. And if you didn't already check it out, I did some film study on Canelo Alvarez fighting Liam Smith, and we talk about all the different ways that Canelo sets up his punches, and you can kind of watch what strategies he employs to land his punches, and we can kind of put that onto the shell of Gennady Golovkin and how he defends his punches and whatever, and kind of figure out how they're going to come together. But anyway, I did round one last night, and Gennady Golovkin had kind of an interesting style. Normally he's really good at setting up his punches, like very good at it, using a lot of probes, a lot of feints. But in this fight, I think he knew that Kell Brook was a counterpuncher, so he kind of dispensed with that stuff and just led with actual punches, and then used head movement to get out of the way of the counters, and then tried to land the counters after. And he's still picking up the timing of Kell Brook. Kell Brook is a very good fighter, you guys. I don't think he hits as hard as Canelo, but I think he's a better fighter than Canelo is. And yeah. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get into this round. We're not scoring it. I had someone in the last comment section talk about how Kell Brook was winning the fight, and that's subjective. I don't agree that McGregor only got credit for winning one round against Mayweather. So if you had a betting line, you'd have lost if you said McGregor was going to win more rounds than one against Mayweather, and you'd kind of just get cheated out of your goddamn money. So we're not going to talk about that kind of stuff. We're talking about breaking down skills and stuff. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the round. And this one's really interesting too, and I'm going to point out a few other things that are very important for the development of the fight, and the way that Canelo and Golovkin are going to come together. Oh, beautiful. So right away, what do you notice? So in the first round, Golovkin didn't really have the timing on Brook's jab, right? He was getting hit with a lot of jabs, but one of the interesting things was he would, off of those punches, even when Brook would land his jab, Golovkin would try to catch his opponent's jab, and jab at the same time with him. So here you have kind of a fail on Brook's part, where he knows that Triple G is trying to punch with him, right? Trying to counter the counters and take away his jab as well. And here we have Brook feint him. Whoops, I fucking missed the frame, motherfucker. Brook feints him with the jab. Golovkin moves his right glove forward to catch it, and then shoots his own jab, exactly like he was doing in round one. But because of the feint, Brook didn't really anticipate the jab coming, even though he knows that every time that he jabbed, Golovkin would try to counter it. So kind of a misstep from Brook right there, just a simple mistake, and Golovkin doing a good job of capitalizing on it. Now the caveat to this would be if he wanted Golovkin to throw that jab, right? Because that's the trigger, right? That's the button you press. Boom, you press that button, and then Golovkin catches a jab and shoots his own jab, right? If Brook instead threw a right hand over the top, feints the jab and throws a right hand over the top, because he gets Golovkin to commit to a jab. He's got a bona fide trap set up, right? But maybe he'll do that later on in the round. He'll feint him, get him commit to a jab. But in this instance, you know, he kind of just gets cracked with a shot. And then Golovkin, in true Golovkin fashion, shuffles forward, ducks the counter, what could come, and goes over the top with the right hand. When I watched it in real time, it looked like that right hand landed. But here it looks like it kind of gets blocked. But very classic Golovkin style. It does look like Brook's glove gets in the way, but it still looks like Brook's own hand punches him in the head. And then again, right, Brook shooting the jab with Golovkin and getting caught with another jab. And I'm inclined to believe that Golovkin catches the one from Brook. Now, I want to talk about something really interesting, too. If you notice, there's like kind of a pause for Brook. You know, usually he's moving around the ring really well, but he kind of pauses right before he makes an action. Like right there, and then he's going to pause right here. And there's like, it's very strange, you know, and it's one of the tells that Golovkin is going to use to kind of pick up the timing of Brook's jab. And that's something that's very common with a lot of fighters. They'll be moving around. They're not super fluid, right? And it's one of the problems with, you know, training so hard and working so hard and your coach always yelling at you, get your hand up, and you're sitting in front of the bag. And I'm not trying to be preachy right now or get off topic, you know, but you as a fighter, you stop being so fluid and relaxed, right? And you always, you know, get that checklist going. Oh, is my hand up? Is this that? Is that there? You know, and you always make sure that everything's in position so that you're not moving and like fluidly and then throwing your punches off like fighters who have like a really active guard, like Floyd Mayweather being an example of that. Very active guard. He's able to use his head movement, boom, and then slide in and throw right hands. And he doesn't always have his hands up, right? And people say that he's an outlier. It's because he's fast. It's because of this. It's because he's less predictable, right? And in this instance, right, he has his hands up. Brook has his hands up, but that doesn't stop him from getting punched in the face, right? Because he's making himself predictable in that fashion. And the reason that I'm bringing that up is because Canelo is very similar in this fashion. It's one of the reasons why Mayweather was so easily able to dominate him. Mayweather was able to pick up his timing, and Canelo has like some very, very interesting tells with his movement, with his speed, and the way that he kind of freezes before he throws punches as well. And then good job from Golovkin catching him on the line. And this right here, actually, real quick, just to interject, anyone who's watched Golovkin versus Danny Jacobs, especially as many goddamn times as I have, I must have seen that fight like 100 times, breaking it down. Danny Jacobs crosses this threshold of the ring probably like 5, 6, 10 times around. You know, and Golovkin wouldn't throw punches at him, even though in the 4th round, that's exactly where he knocked him down. He kind of let up and stopped catching him with shots, you know, but look at how easy it is for you to catch punches on your opponent in those instances. And that's another reason why I think that he kind of carried Danny Jacobs. I think he could have ended that fight anytime he wanted to. But good work. And again, sticking true with the Golovkin style, shoots the jab, ducks the counter, gets his glove up, and then shoots the actual punch he's trying to land. And then good job from him after shooting that shot, right? As sloppy as he looks when he's doing all this stuff, getting his forearm on Brook's head to create space so he can throw another left hook, right? And get that shot in there. You know, very high-level skills, but for some reason he doesn't always use them. Boom. And now, really interesting, exactly what I was talking about just a second ago. Brook gets on the line, pauses, and then that makes Golovkin think that the timing of the jab is coming. So he shoots the jab, gets his glove in front of his face so that he can catch Brook's jab because he thinks it's coming, but Brook goes over the top with the right hand. It doesn't land, right? But that's not the point, right? It was a good tactic, and he has rounds to kind of figure it out. And again, beautiful from Golovkin, being able to get under the shot that under the counters. even though he kind of just gets raked with that one. Ooh, great job from Brook. Now again, Brook is picking up the patterns and the rhythms too, right? So he's walking, stops on the line, and then knows that that's when Golovkin is going to punch. So the emphasis has kind of changed during this. The strategy of the fight has kind of changed from Brook throwing punches when he gets onto the line to Golovkin anticipating him getting onto the line. And this is something that this is a skill that I don't think that Canelo is going to be very good at. I don't think that he's going to be able to make this adjustment. But Brook makes this adjustment beautifully and is able to get behind that shot. He still eats the counter jab, right? But being able to pick up on those rhythms and patterns, is extremely important for being a good fighter. And it's one of the things that I don't think that Canelo necessarily does very well. Canelo is a workhorse. He works hard. But if he was able to kind of pick up on rhythms and patterns and timings and stuff like that, I think he would have been able to stop a fighter like Chavez Jr. Anyway, gets on the line, and I think, anticipating a shot, pulls back, and I think he was kind of thinking that Brook was going to take a step back and kind of try to get away from that hook, but, it was the first time that they've kind of changed, because the last time when he threw the jab, right, he pulled back, and I think he thought that he could get Golovkin to do the same, or get Brook to do the same thing, and then catch him with the hook instead. Kind of very like the same kind of trap that Canelo throws. But it doesn't work. Brook changes it up, and I like that Brook is using different punches now, right? Instead of getting on the line and throwing the jab, he throws a hook this time. It doesn't look like it lands super clean, and Golovkin's definitely doesn't. But it's just interesting how you can see both of their minds working. Both of them are trying new strategies and doing different things, making adjustments. Beautiful boxing from both fighters. Oh shit, I don't even know if you guys can hear me. My mic's been like behind my shit. Hold on, what happened? Did he punch him in the face? Oh, beautiful. Doesn't really punch him. Shoots the jab, shifts in, and interesting that he makes Brook miss the jab by staying on the left side of it rather than ducking down to the right. And I wonder if that was because he was anticipating the hook and he didn't want to walk into the hook, or he thought that maybe a right hand could come too. But does a great job of avoiding the counter by not ducking his head down, to his right like he usually does. And then also, good for Brook, he's able to control Golovkin's right arm when he gets his arm over his forearm like that. And I'm not sure if Golovkin actually lands anything in here like significant. We're not going to count that stuff. I don't think that well, actually, like, on second thought, Canelo doesn't clinch a lot, and I think that might be to his detriment in this fight. We saw earlier in the first round, maybe we didn't see in the first round. Ooh, decent job right there. Feints him, gets Brook to counter the jab, now that Brook is trying to fight off of Golovkin's jab, and then lands a big body shot right there. And that's something, again, now Golovkin making the adjustments, probing, right? And that's a probe, right? He knew that, for the most part, he knew that Brook was going to counter the shot with a jab or a left hook. The left hook would have been a little less good for Golovkin in this situation. But he knows how Brook is going to react to it, and he's able to bait him into a counter shot and then land a big right hand to the body. Now, in the first round, he didn't use very high, a very high skill level. He used very high level, like I call it like ABC boxing or C-level boxing, where he commits to his punches as the feints and as the setups, right? Kind of Keith Thurman-like. But he uses very high level defense still to roll and slip and duck the shots. Whereas in this round, he's kind of changing it up and using the stuff that his opponent is giving him to set up his punches. And this is a masterful use of the probe to get Brook to kind of walk into the shot. And even better, you know, he noticed that the shots weren't landing super cleanly when he was going to the head, right? Because Brook falls in on his shot. And when Brook falls in onto this shot, boom, all his weight goes into his left leg. And he kind of just falls into this giant right hand to the body. And I think that that's something that's going to be very prevalent during the course of the Golovkin-Canelo fight, is them fighting over who has control of the jab. I think that Canelo will be fighting for control of the jab, and I think that Golovkin will be fighting for control of the space between them. And I don't think that, and what I mean by that is, I talked a little bit about this in round 1, I think. Oh shit, I gotta talk about some shit real quick too. What's that? Let me see. I can't remember your name, bro, but you were talking about elbows, elbows and gloves, guy. Stick around to the end of the video. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Elbows and gloves. It's really important for the development of this fight. But now I forgot what the fuck I was about to say. Oh, yes. The way that Canelo sets up his punches is he uses full-blown punches usually to set up his punches. You know, his feints, you know, he overindulges his own feints, right? And I think that's going to leave him vulnerable to counters because he opens up too far with them. Whereas feints like this, like from Golovkin, right, simply taps his glove out there, doesn't have to commit to it, and is able to get under this shot. You know, kind of bounces off his head a little bit, not a clean shot, and land a punch like this. And that's how you're supposed to set up your punches, right? So the difference between Canelo fighting for control of the jab, I think he's actually going to be committing to his jab all the time in order to, not all the time, you know, he will have some feints, right? But no clean, beautiful probing like this. Nothing like simple like that to get his opponent out of position and to commit to a shot. Nothing clean like that. And I think that that's going to allow Golovkin to really take advantage of the inexperience that Canelo has with his lead hand, right? We've all seen Canelo throw hard-ass fucking jabs, real hard jabs. He's got a great jab, right? But his knowledge of the lead hand, I don't think is as dynamic as Golovkin's. I don't think he's going to know how to set up his punches in this fashion. But anyway, getting back to it, and then I'm going to talk about elbows and gloves at the end of the round. And Golovkin kind of, you know, allowing Brook to kind of open up here. And I wonder if this is similar in the style that in my opinion, I think it is, in the way that Canelo allows his opponents to open up on him when he's on the ropes. He allows his opponents to throw punches at him when he gets on the ropes, so he can find openings to counter. You know, in my opinion, Canelo does a little bit better job of rolling and slipping punches than Golovkin is doing here in this instance. He's actually getting tagged by some shots, right? But he also has the opportunity. I think Golovkin here has a better opportunity to counter and not take actual hard shots. Whereas if Golovkin gets feinted or probed in the wrong way, he might wind up eating a very solid shot on the ropes. Where I don't think that there's nearly as much risk, in spite of the crazy good uppercut that Brook lands later on in this round, is it? But beautiful work right here from Brook. Look at how he throws that shot, shoots forward, and he tries to turn to shoot his right hand, but Brook controls his head, you know. And I don't think that that's something that that Canelo knows how to do. We'll see in the fight, and if he doesn't, it's just going to completely spell, like, it's going to spell complete doom for Canelo when Canelo sits on the ropes. Gets on the line, and then Brook does a good job of getting that shot. You know, I think that, you know, for the paper, scissors, rocks battle of, oh, I'm going to probe, I'm going to feint, I'm going to, you know, throw a hook. You know, this one just wound up working out in Brook's favor. He guessed well, but beautiful right here. Makes him miss, catches him with the left hook, controls his head, and then starts throwing the right hand in there. You know, a little, a little dirty like, right? Holding his head down and catching him with the shot. Ooh, Brook getting kind of stuck on the line again. Oh, and I had somebody ask me, what the line is. I'll try to look. I'll try to be mindful and kind of give an explanation of it. Jab, ducks the counter, and then boom, walks him into this kind of right uppercut. And this is kind of experience again. You know, you use your ABC boxing skills. And after enough, minutes in the round, you just know how your opponent's going to react to stuff. And he's seen Brook kind of duck down like this many times. Even though the punch doesn't land super clean, he knows where Brook is going in these instances. And I like that from Brook. Tries a right uppercut instead. Almost gets him. Almost. And then immediately goes to control him. But doesn't hold any control. Ooh. And almost gets scraped with the right hand. Ooh. Oh, okay, here we go. So, talking about the line. Golovkin's not really. He's kind of on it. So if you look at, if you want to know what the line is, it's when you could kind of draw a line between your feet, right? And it would be between your feet and your opponent's feet. And you guys are both kind of on the line. And if your opponent were to throw a right hand, if you're close enough, it would be right in his his target zone, right? So if Golovkin throws a right hand right here and Brook doesn't move at all, it's going to land right on flush on Brook's face. If Brook throws a right hand and Golovkin doesn't move at all, it's going to be right on Golovkin's face. And now moving off the line is kind of any little angle where your opponent is facing you in their perfect boxing stance, and you just take like a little inch to the left or an inch to the right, and the farther you get off of those angles and you rotate, like if you created a circle, right, from, maybe I'll do this in my video too, I can kind of explain it a little better too. If you take a circle and at the heel of your foot and the heel of your opponent's foot, you draw a line, right, and that would be kind of like the diameter, right? And if you were to create a second line by simply spinning that line in the middle, right, that's where the line is going to be if you're standing in front of your opponent, right? And when your opponent stays on the old line and you're spinning with the diameter, you're spinning the new line and creating a new angle, you're moving off the line. And that's the way that you're going to be able to create like positional advantages without, sorry, there's someone like walking around. Without too much effort, without, just simply feinting your opponent and getting to duck or put himself, without having to really rely on your opponent to put himself in an inappropriate position, right? Where you can actually maximize your use of movement to put yourself in a better position, rather than when you're setting up your punches or setting up your offense, relying on your opponent getting out of position in order to create an advantageous situation. But anyway, I'll do a little bit more about that when I do my own punch videos. Maybe I'll have like a circle or whatever and kind of explain it. But shoots that right hand. The counter is coming. And Brook knows that it's coming. Sorry, I'm like all distracted now. That guy like all like tripping me out. But makes him miss with the counter. But we all know that that right hand is only to set up the shift so that he can get in here and land the left hook. But Brook does a great job of ducking the counter. Ooh. And then Brook doesn't control him here. Oh, he kind of does. Oh. And almost gets clipped with a huge left hook. Now, this is going to be one of the problems that Canelo has. Like, look how close a fight-ending left hook came to hitting Brook. And I talked about it in round 1. Brook has fantastic eyes. He sees punches coming so well. And I don't think that Canelo sees punches coming as well as Brook does. And I think that there are going to be a lot of situations during the course of the fight with Canelo where Canelo doesn't want to clinch. Canelo doesn't want to hold. Canelo doesn't want to body up with Golovkin. He's going to want to stay on the outside and quote-unquote box. And he's going to get hit with a lot of shots like that while he's backing out. Another bad habit that Canelo has is just backing straight out of engagements. He doesn't always use his pivots and his turns and create new angles. And I'm sorry if that off-the-line stuff got a little confusing. I will make it a little more clear. Oh, like just this right here. So they're right in front of each other. Shoots a jab. He misses his uppercut, and Golovkin takes a step to his left, right? Oh, and then just beautiful. Exactly like I was saying in my videos, right? Takes a step all his way to his left leg. Look at his hips. And then turns out, and he moves back onto a new line, right? And at the same time that Brook is moving off the line as well, right? And changing angles. So they kind of just turn that line that I was telling you about just a few seconds ago. They turn it from, you know, what would it be, like 135? They turn it, if it was a clock, right, from like 135, right, to almost 245 or something like that. Yeah, almost 245 if it were hands on a clock, you know. And that's the line. It's the generic times in which you can kind of punch your opponent and they can punch you. And in my opinion, ooh, and now Brook getting a little tricky, right? Not pausing on the line as much as he was, shooting the right hand and then moving off the line. You know, really trying to take advantage of the information that he is given to Golovkin. And that's like one of the most interesting aspects of boxing, right? Is that you have patterns, you have flaws, and the more you fight your opponent, the more the time goes on, the more film study they've done, the more knowledgeable your opponent is going to be about your flaws, right? And Kell Brook he's found one of his flaws at the beginning of the round, right, where he kind of gets stuck on the line and shoot punches, and now he's eliminating his own flaw and using it against his opponent, right? He's making an adjustment for the adjustment that his opponent had made, and that's a sign of great fighters. You know, I think that, man, I really hope Kell Brook keeps fighting. You know, someone in the comment section of my last video said that he's training again. I'm really excited about that. I think that fighting Errol Spence only made him a better fighter, and I'm really excited to see where Brook goes from here. But anyway, not getting stuck on the line and able to use the information that your opponent learns about you to set traps. And although he hasn't really taken advantage of it, right? Kell Brook's not the biggest puncher, so it's very hard for him to take advantage of simple traps like that. But he's doing a good job of using it to kind of score and keep Golovkin moving as well. Interesting that he turned southpaw right there. Ooh, great uppercut right there. You know, and I wonder what it is that Golovkin is thinking when he's allowing Brook to kind of open up right here. You know, to be fair, if your opponent has been throwing ones, twos, right, and then just moving off the line, you're not going to expect him to just open up with a 3-punch, you know, 4-punch combination, right? You're going to be like, oh man, I didn't see that coming, because he hasn't been wanting to trade and fight with me. He's been moving around a lot. So maybe it's just catching him off guard. But, you know, maybe he's allowing him to throw those punches too. Like in this instance, right? Trading left hooks again, just like in the last round. Ooh, it's so close. But anyway, I don't know. I'm curious, right? Because if this is indeed one of the things that Golovkin is not very capable of handling, right? Combination punching. Canelo was going to give Golovkin all he can handle. because Canelo loves to punch in combination. With that caveat, right? With that said, Canelo does throw pretty decent combinations. I don't think he has the power to stop Canelo in any way, shape, or to stop Golovkin in any way, shape, or form. But I do think that he has the power to tire himself out, and that's kind of been like one of the running themes with Canelo, is that he always has to take breaks. You know, great boxing from both of them. And he always kind of takes breaks and gets tired, you know, and gets a little gassed. Maybe Golovkin's getting gassed in these rounds. You know, he turns it up for a while, and then all of a sudden, you know, in the end of the round, like just like the last round, Brook just starts opening up on him, and Golovkin doesn't have any recourse, right? Is that what's going on? I'm not sure. To be honest, I don't really think so. Because I think that he understands the angles that he can create, and I think he understands how to control his opponent very well. So, in my opinion, he's kind of just, you know, letting it be a good show. Because I do think overall that Golovkin is a better fighter than Kell Brook, even though Kell Brook is probably showing Golovkin a lot of things that he didn't expect him to be able to do. And I think that might also be a very fair assessment as well, that not even Golovkin knew how good Brook was going to do in this fight. I think he's kind of, you know, there's a little bit of that. Now, I made yesterday's video. I tried to make it a couple times, like last Friday, and I kept having people walk in on me on my video. I make these videos at work when I'm on my breaks. So this is my lunch break, you guys. Damn, I got 30 minutes of my lunch break just gone. But one of the things I meant to talk about is how originally I was doing my film study on Saul Canelo Alvarez to start off versus Liam Smith, and then someone, you know, I made a point in the second or the third round, and I started talking about how Canelo stopped throwing his right hand, and I wasn't sure why, you know, but it was noticeable to me. I watched it in the fight. I noticed that he wasn't throwing it. And then someone in the comment section told me that he broke his hand during the course of this fight, and I thought that was really interesting. And it kind of sparked me to, you know, continue the film study, you know, for a couple of rounds. And then I kind of realized that it didn't make any sense, you know, to use a fight where Canelo has a broken hand to do film study. You know, how is that fair? How am I going to give him all the props that he needs? How am I going to be able to figure out how he's going to fight Golovkin when he only has one goddamn hand? And interestingly enough, let's kind of go back here. And in these flurries of punches that Brook is throwing, the way that Golovkin kind of shells up, and it's not super apparent. It's not super apparent in this fight, but it was in the Daniel Jacobs fight. Excuse me. Golovkin kind of shells up in a very similar way to Liam Smith. You know, he'll kind of crouch down a little bit, put his elbows in real tight to his body, keep his hands up right to his eyebrows, and kind of make his body really small. And that's kind of the position that Canelo tries to get his opponents into, right? To cover up and to not really any great film of it in here for some reason. Oh, like right here. Whoops, why isn't it working? So, as you can see, kind of ducks down, dips down, gets his elbows real low. But he kind of goes into this interesting little shell, and it's very similar to the way that Liam Smith went, and very similar to the way that Golovkin does it in, which is very similar to the way that Golovkin does it versus Jacobs. And the reason that I'm pointing that out is because Golovkin likes to flash his lead hand. He likes to flash his lead hand out, and then when his opponents cover up,
he'll throw right hands to the body, just to the side of the elbow, and he'll also throw left hooks to the body, to the liver, just to the side of the elbow as well. And the only problem with this, and that's fine, right? That's a fine technique, is that Golovkin doesn't have the greatest punch technique. You know, Abel Sanchez has kind of come out now saying that Canelo is like a slapper. You know, he doesn't have good punch technique, and he doesn't. He's very fast, he's very sharp, but if you watch him throw punches, he doesn't commit his hips to his shots, right? He doesn't turn his hips, he doesn't rotate his feet always. You know, sometimes he does, both of them, but most of the time he doesn't. His hips will move like a little bit, you know, and to be fast and to throw quick combinations and stuff, you know, you don't have to twist your hips super hard, but you're going to be using, and this is part of the reason why he gets so tired when he's punching, is because he's using so many more muscles than he is using his weight to throw his shots. So while he can get power into his shots, it's going to be so much more draining for him than it is for someone like Golovkin, who's getting his weight behind his punches. And we can see the difference between him punching somebody and Canelo punching somebody, in spite of the fact that they both have a pretty decent knockout record, right? Canelo still does. I'm not sure exactly. It doesn't really matter. He has knocked some pretty tough people out. But anyway, one of the problems with him using his open hand, and this is another reason why he doesn't have as many knockouts or as much power, and why I don't think he can actually knock Golovkin out, he doesn't punch with his landing knuckles. He kind of does that slapping thing where he's hitting with the inside of the hand, so he's hitting with his fingers. And that's actually how he broke his hand against Liam Smith, is slamming his right hand into Liam Smith's elbow. And I think that that's going to be one of the huge problems that he might have during the course of this fight if Golovkin covers up in a similar manner and just allows Canelo to throw punches at him while he shells up. And I think it's a very realistic, it's a very real possibility that Canelo breaks his hands against Golovkin. And that's not because of bad luck. That's not because of this or that. It's because of poor punch technique. I have a video on my channel about it. It's entitled Brittle-Fisted Star. And it's about Floyd Mayweather's punch technique and why he always breaks his hands. I did notice that when he fought Conor McGregor, man, his punch technique was fucking on point. And I don't think he broke his hands in this fight. But he really had great punch technique and was really able to hurt Conor McGregor. But if you watch that fight, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about in terms of the slapping and stuff. And normally Mayweather kind of shortcuts his punches just so that he can land quick shots and set his traps a little easier. And not have to worry about return fire either. But I think that if Canelo does something similar, it's going to be very much to his detriment. And at the end of the fight, if he loses, he says, oh, you know, or he has to take a knee, or he doesn't come out for the 8th round, or whatever it is, and he says, oh, it's because I broke my hand, but we'll do it again at the end of the year, you know, and he gets his rematch because he broke his hand. That's a loss. You know, that's a legitimate loss, you know, and Canelo fans will be like, oh, the only reason he didn't do that is because he broke his hand, or this and that. But if he breaks his own hand because he has poor punch technique, it's his own fault, you know, and I'm putting this out there now. I kind of expect it to happen, or I expect him to at least have hand problems because it is a very consistent part of his career, hurting his own hands because of his punch technique. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Brook showing, you know, so far in this fight that I think for the first 2 minutes, you know, Golovkin was kind of wrecking Brook, and then Brook got those, like, you know, that wild minute where he kind of just got to throw lots of punches at Golovkin and doing a good job, you know. And it's interesting, like, how he was not running, you know, but like moving around the ring, using his movement and not really allowing Golovkin to set up the kind of punches that he was doing. And then he would plant himself kind of unexpectedly. And I think in throwing in combinations, right, hook and then the right hand, and throwing combinations, and I think that kind of
shocked Golovkin. I don't think Golovkin was really ready or expecting Brook to be throwing combination punches with him in that regard. And that might be the reason why it was so difficult, or why he appeared to have so much success in the rounds. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Thanks, guys.